When I made a video titled Grind Other Trees, I got a request to do a video on how to grind certain tech trees. And every time I sit down to make this script, I keep circling back to one idea. Free-to-play grinding is worse now than it was back then. I've been doing tanks recently since I have all the planes in the game so far, and I really can't grind as much as I did back then. For aircraft, I seem to not have this problem. I can knock a plane out in a day or 8 hours if I use a premium vehicle or an aircraft with a talisman. It's basically how I knocked out the entire Israeli air tree in about 2 weeks. But for ground vehicles, I've only completed the USSR at one point in 2021, after which the Sprint SD and Sprint SDM1 and the rest were added. Currently, I have only China completely grinded, and I'm halfway down the Sprint SDM1, so hopefully I'll complete the USSR tree again in a few days. I feel like grinding in War Thunder is heavily biased to either those who grinded the trees out 6 years ago and are just grinding out new vehicles, or those playing premium vehicles. You know that old saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is now? That's basically how I feel about grinding the tech tree, but instead of the second best time being now, the second best time is actually sometime in the distant future when they stop adding vehicles. See, Air RB and Ground RB live off new vehicles and Flavor of the Month additions. The King Tiger was great for a long enough time that it let a lot of players get to the Leopard before hard counters were introduced. Now, if you play 6.7 tanks, you're not guaranteed an efficient grind because, well, you either get up tier to 7.3 or 7.7 where your hull gets insta-penned by APDS or ATGMs, or you can be top tier and face stuff like the M51 Super Sherman or the T-26E5 and M6A2E1. Currently, I'm grinding for the Flarak Rad, and I'm telling you, having a 10.0 Roland at 11.0 is kinda awful because every half second you get pogged by a KA-50 flying at treetop level. And just to double down on my suffering because I'm very pedantic and somewhat kind of a nerd, I don't have a helicopter and I strictly use West German aircraft to make my lineups authentic. With every tank at top tier getting lol pen darts and teams just mixed up all over the place, it seems the winning team is just a team that slips up the least. Your team can have the one-lifers, or your team doesn't have the KA-50s to support the boots on the ground. Even on the player level, there can be real screw-ups that just throw your entire grind into disarray. A fudged shot, a shot that didn't kill instantly, or in my case, playing on 210 ms latency, shooting first but your shot gets cancelled because the other player was just faster in his ping, so he killed your breach first. There's a million and one ways this game can impede your grind. Then of course, there's the night battles at top tier. Good luck grinding your stock tank when every player in the other team has laser rangefinders and thermals to see you from every nook and cranny that you can. Even in Air RB, wanna grind out top tier? I hope you enjoy facing F-14s every second. The US versus US matchmaker really harms the joy in playing top tier, and it's getting very tedious to play the 9.7 to 11.3 BR at the moment. It's either A-10s, Harriers, A-5s, F-5s, premium MiG-21s, or the F-14s. I'm actually pretty fortunate that I cashed in and grinded out the aircraft trees to completion before tier 7 jets were introduced. Otherwise, my grind experience would just be me getting smacked in the face with AIM-9Ls or R550 Magics at 9.7, and I believe that's just no good. I think I feel this best in naval battles. I totally neglected navals, so I'm still plopping around in destroyers while I face light and heavy cruisers all around. Naval's problems are more pronounced because there are clear distinctions between the capabilities of battleships and the cruisers, where even aircraft spam cannot keep up. No joke, I played Naval Enduring Confrontation recently and used a Wyvern to throw 2 torpedoes at a USS North Dakota in Hokkaido, and it ended up surviving. I just don't understand how. So I just can't imagine being a light cruiser up tier to 6.7 where they get an instant lead on you from 10k out. The biggest enemy in any grind is not dying, losing, or what have you. It's the burnout from repetition. But the thing is, if you stop to touch grass, you end up getting left behind, and if you ignore it long enough, the tank becomes obsolete. I think currently the tanks with the longest lifespan as competitive vehicles are the Soviet and German vehicles. Think about it. The T-55A and Leopard A1A1 are some of the oldest top-tier vehicles in the game, but they're still great at their BR compared to something like the M60A1 AOS or the Chieftain. Either way, burnout really hampers a grind, and I've pretty much fallen victim to it recently, having 30k left on the HSTVL for about 3 months before deciding to finish it. It's not that I don't like to play War Thunder. I love the game and still draw immense amounts of fun from it, but I just don't like playing this certain nation, for example the Abrams, because facing KA-50s is just not conducive to good gameplay. I only ever power through my burnout if there's an event going on, and at that I don't play KA-50 battle ratings. So if I were to sum up how to grind trees in the game, it's pretty much buy a premium, play it a lot until you have everything. So tier 6 premiums are the most bang for buck since they grind all the present tiers in War Thunder. Or, if you want a free to play it, get a time machine and install the game in 2015. Then you would have the King Tiger at its prime. No night battles, no stabilizers, no overpressure, no helicopters, and most especially no thermals. That's the only way you're going to play in a less stressful environment. And even now that I have top tier tanks, I still throw talismans on them because I just can't be bothered, and not having your tank shells researched, along with NVD and smoke, is a very massive handicap. TFS at 11.0 is basically what you call a death sentence. Don't get me wrong though, I have appreciation of the new game mechanics that enhance the gameplay like smoke grenades, spotting, repairing teammates, and active protection systems. They make gameplay interesting and offer more ways for a match to play out. Hell, I even appreciate the mechanics I'm currently complaining about, but you can't deny that grinding stock is much harder now than it was before. Before, a stock tank's only handicap were parts, FPE, and stock shells. Now it's parts, FPE, stock shells, laser rangefinder, thermals, and smoke. Without those, you're setting yourself up for pain at top tier. I should know. I grinded up the ZTZ99A from stock, and I got both the PGZ04A and M41D, and I'm still not a tier 4 modifications. As a conclusion, War Thunder is a continuously evolving game, and while in between updates everything feels the same, comparing 2022 War Thunder to 2017 War Thunder feels very different from each other. But the only way to go is forward, and we just have to adapt to every change that we get. And the biggest change we're going to get, I promise you, is coming up real soon. Thanks for watching. This is the Dr. MD. Come back next time when I grind out the Leopard 2A7A1 with the Panzer 4G.